Always, thank you so much for being with us. I am really looking forward to everything that you have to say about the AI space, about the data science space, and how we got to where we are, how AI is the it thing now after being relatively quiet and unknown and almost uncared about for so long. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you, Beck, for inviting me. I'm, like a great, it's a great honor, like you have invited me, and
Thank you so much.
it's, I'm really excited to, speak about the questions which you might have for the audience. And let me tell you a brief about my history. So I have been working as an AI engineer at IBM right now. Before that, I have been working in supply chain industry where I have been using different kind of optimization techniques and data science technique. So I have worked with companies such as Unilever. I have worked with O9 and in space related to supply chain industry. And as per my education, I have done masters in statistical computing, which
Mm,
is a subdomain of we can say data science only.
absolutely.
And yeah, and I have been staying in Bangalore these days, and yeah.
Now, the question that's to me that's burning, and I would like everybody to know. In your own words, can you please describe to us what is artificial intelligence? What is AI?
A tool which has its own intelligence, which can do automation or a task which helps human is AI. In technical terms, AI can be divided into different kind of ways. One is supervised learning, where we have the training data and the testing data, and then of course then there is unsupervised learning. We have all the data which is not labeled, or we can say that data is not from a particular set of classes or categories. Generative models such as ChatGPT or Gemini, these kind of models are from the unsupervised class learning.
Got it. So if I may break that down, artificial intelligence is a way to train a machine, essentially, in a specific task so that task can be automated without much human interference. And this training can take place as supervised or unsupervised. Thank you so much. Yeah, that to me makes perfect sense. One of the main topics I want to talk about today, AI is such a buzzword these days, right? Everybody wants AI, everybody wants to implement AI. And it's kind of funny. So when I was, first in the data analytics spaces and data science spaces, the data science space, the AI space was relatively small. People knew each other, and now this has just exploded. It's become such a buzzword now. What do you think it is that made it so interesting to people so suddenly?
Some things in AI space are overhyped. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
that is that some things are overhyped. So let me tell you, like in what I feel, my understanding, like to my depth, is that, like, let's say you take an example of computer vision. Okay,
Uh-huh.
like we have done lot of work has been done in computer vision, in object detection, in segmentation. The way we are kind of giving preferences to these kind of models such as generative AI models and all. I feel that like this computer vision is going, slipping away from the hand. So that thing we don't have to do that. Like usually what happens, like let's say we are using some generative AI model, let's say ChatGPT
Hmm.
or Gemini model. We feel that like it's doing magic, but behind the scene it is not doing magic. As a technical or as a geek person, I know
Yeah.
that like that overhype bubble is gonna burst soon, and that is
Okay.
gonna hurt.
So you think there's a bubble that's going to get burst
I
eventually
think
over the
so. I think so. I
ah,
think so.
interesting. Like I said before in the data sciences, nobody cared. I mean, people cared obviously, but it wasn't anywhere near what it is now. So I wonder, is it that everything got put into like a nice user interface with ChatGPT and Midjourney all of a sudden became really famous? So now
uh,
that there's something tangible there, I wonder if that's what attracted people to it all of a sudden, where to people like you, this is nothing new.
my understanding is that uh, OpenAI,
Uh,
or let's say other companies as well, they have kind of we all know, like as in if we the power of deep learning
yeah.
is very much. Like it can solve. It has that capability that like if we are able to channel the information properly, and if we are like able to give the compute properly, we are able to solve any problem with
Mhm.
deep learning models. So OpenAI and other companies kind of like have channeled that in a way, in a right way. And that's where kind of and the main thing why it is becoming so famous among a person is that like let's say if let's say I'm a non-technical person,
Mhm.
and I want to write an email. So I can like use this tool to write an email, and it will like give me a whole kind of like a whole structure. So that's where it's bringing a value to a common person. And that's where it is it's becoming so famous among people, and people are like it is doing a magic, and it is doing whatnot. The people which are not that much into this domain, they are like over kind of hyping it.
So to paraphrase, to someone who doesn't necessarily know what's happening under the hood, there's a lot of overhype happening.
Yes,
That
yes, yes.
explains
That
all.
that is my understanding. Obviously, like that is my understanding. So the thing is, if you notice this, there was like with Bitcoin. If you remember, like during the
Oh,
COVID
okay.
pandemic, this thing was a lot with the Bitcoin also. But like right now, no one, like as in not a major chunk of people talk about it. uh or like there's no that overhype thing which is going on.
Uh-huh.
But like that's why that's the whole thing, like as in that is gonna go down, like the level of this is gonna stabilize soon.
You're right. I find it that people who are continuing with Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain in general are the ones who were very dedicated to begin with before the hype. You hit on a couple of very, very interesting points. Now, one of the things, and you can disagree with me here, one of the things that I see in AI that's happening that I did not see in blockchain is this rush, this fear of missing out for companies to implement AI into their system, whether they need it or not, right? And you could probably argue that many of them don't even need, that level of AI. Having that in mind, and you saying that this bubble will burst, where do you see AI being in 5 to 10 years? And how do you see the workplace change and our day-to-day life change in 5 to 10 years now that this cat is out of the bag?
Okay, okay. So that's a really interesting question. So like obviously, like the because I'm an AI engineer, I work with AI, and like the space AI will grow. It will grow. I feel is that other spaces which are there, let's say a recommendation system, or
Mhm,
let's say time series problem, time series domain, or supply
mhm,
chain domain. So
mhm,
like as I told you, I have also worked in time series, or like in supply chain domain. So mm, in those field, like there's a lot of potential and a lot of ways in which AI can be implemented, and optimization can be done. And that's where I see that like there is a potential growth. In terms of this generative AI space, this space is also like there is a lot of scope in here also. And obviously that is going to affect our day-to-day life, how we work, and how we like interact, and do our day-to-day daily tasks.
mhm,
And that is going to change. So like the launch of tools such as Copilot, or these tools will help in both our professional journey, and in our personal journey also to some extent. And but given that like the scope which I feel is much more in other sectors or in other domains, if more research and more workforce has been dedicated to it.
mm.
Or
Okay. You're saying whatever can be automated will be automated. Um, so I guess a bit of a more controversial question is one of the things that have been flying around is the amount of jobs AI will cost. Some will say many will lose their jobs. Some say new jobs will be created, right? What is your opinion on this?
AI is gonna, help us out in a best way possible. It can help us out to be more productive. It can help us
Mhm,
out to be, more we are more optimized. We are fast. Our throughput is good. And but end of the day, a human is required, and that is gonna be there. But let's say if I'm, last year, let's say, without the launch of these generative AI models,
yeah.
let's say I was working with three different people, they were doing some manual tasks and cleaning those, or like doing some kind of pre-processing, data pre-processing or something like that. But now, because of launch of these generative AI models, I'm able to be more productive, and I'm able to do those tasks in an automated way.
Hmm.
Obviously, the people who are, like doing that manual task and, not using generative AI is gonna replaced by generative AI. You
Mm,
get my point? Like,
hmm.
you have to, like, there's gonna be job cut, there's gonna be like more competition. But at the same time, if you know like how you can use these tools in a effective way, if you know how you can, bring value to the company, obviously, like, it is, you are on the safe side, and the people who are not using these tools and people who don't know how to use these tools are gonna get affected.
Okay. One of the big things that you said that's really ringing with me is you mentioned the way AI engineering and data science is taught right now is outdated, right? With that in mind, how does somebody upscale themselves, right? How does somebody get to know what's necessary? So for me, it's been watching lots of YouTube videos, getting on Discord, trying to get my hands dirty, asking whoever will talk to me, right? Um, but in your opinion, what's the most direct and best way somebody can learn?
Yeah. So, what my understanding, or like what I have seen is, like, the people who are, making the curriculums and making the courses, they are also, like trying to catch up with the
Mm.
flow or the way where the industry is moving on, and they are, trying to upgrade themselves as fast as they can. But my understanding is, or like what my experience is, like, you have to be practical. You have to, like, you have to do your own hands dirty, and you have to, like, apart from just going through their curriculum, you have to look into other spaces. You have to, go through YouTube, you have to go through GitHub, you have to go through the job description, what they are asking in it. You have to be practical. You have to go into job descriptions, and you have to see what are they asking for, and then you have to, like, browse through the internet, go through Google, and, like, and go through YouTube and search for it and learn from it. And then you are gonna, like, be confident, like, this is I have seen in this, and I'm trying to implement it here, and that's how gonna, it is gonna help you out. You got it?
People, interesting. So people teaching themselves are trying to catch up, right?
Kind of, yeah, in a practical way, yeah.
One of the best advice that I had heard is it's best to have your own portfolio. So don't
Hmm.
necessarily wait for maybe it's training, maybe it's courses, etc., but build stuff essentially, build your own portfolio, publish it online for others to see, and that will already set you apart, right? And whether that
Hmm.
learning is from YouTube, from Discord, from TikTok, wherever, build your own thing, set yourself apart, learn wherever you can, basically. And then it's very, very
Yeah.
interesting. You were saying, yeah, the instructors themselves are catching up as we're building as this is going. Great insights. Thank you so much. Great insights. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about both what it takes to make AI happen, as well as the ethical side of AI, which I think they're related. Now, one thing that I was a little bit surprised about when just talking to people, and especially people who claim to be AI experts, is let's say GPUs, right? The massive amount of GPU it takes to just make AI happen, whether it's training it, whether it's giving it an output, just making the machine think. And I think also something that's a little bit lost is the amount of energy it takes to make these machines run, right? Now, in your opinion, do you think the amount of resources inputted to AI right now is worth it to the amount of output that we are getting?
The yeah. So uh, let me tell you example. Okay,
Hmm.
let's say I want to go to a market, okay,
Hmm.
and that market is not very much far from my home. It's 3-4 kilometers away, and I'm using a bus, like I'm driving my own, a bus which is in my garage, and I'm using that to go to that marketplace.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
You're using a bus
Yes, I'm using
to
a
get
bus and
to a
I'm driving it.
marketplace.
It doesn't make sense because
Okay.
like that from to that market which is very near to my home. I can
Uh-huh.
use a bicycle to go to that marketplace.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the kind of transportation or the resources like a bus is not required
Okay.
right now. Right now, because of this hype thing, and most people are like they don't know the inner working of it. Most people are using over extensive compute. You get that?
Yes, I do.
So they can do the same task with simple model. They can do the same task with
Mm.
smaller model. They can like use a model which is like which requires a very less GPU compute resource,
Hmm.
but still they are using chat GPT. Still they are using those like billions of model parameter models. So the thing is that is overkilling of resources, and that is not gonna be helpful from an environmental point of view. There are other models present. There are smaller models present. There are let's say your task is to do a simple a simple like work, and you are still not using that same company's model. You get my point, like
Hmm.
it's
Yeah, yeah, please keep going. Yeah. Hmm.
so the thing is mm, how do I explain it? Like the monopoly which is being maintained, like we are overhyping one company or one set of model or tool that is not gonna be there. So the point is, in our place, let's say if someone is a non-technical person,
Hmm.
they should not only go to the most common name,
Got it.
and when they are not going to the most common name, there are smaller models and better models which are available. And I think Hugging Face is one of the best kind of like in terms of open space, open
Amazing space.
um
Amazing place. Yeah.
amazing. Like it's like it's helping a lot. It's trying to help a lot to a common man, or to a general public. But still, that overhype thing needs to go down.
You hit on so many important points just now. First of all, I mean, Hugging Face, we could spend an entire interview just talking about Hugging Face, Hugging Face in itself. Just a fantastic, fantastic space, in my opinion. Um, and then yes, so yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, you're saying there's a bit of a monopoly happening, and everybody is probably rushing to use the strongest and quote unquote the best language model in this case, where you're taking the bus to go to the nearest market, right? But there are much smaller, more efficient models out there that will do the job just fine. People just don't necessarily know about it. Since we're talking about energy usage, the ethical side of AI, right, which is a hot topic as well. In the art spaces, it's training a specific artist's style so that anybody with a keyboard can click clack and get that style. Another hot space is musicians, having their own style copied, or writers, both saying, "Hey, my style was copied," or the writing that's coming out of GPT or any other language model is not up to quality, right? So there's this big ethical side, plagiarism side of AI happening right now. In your opinion, so first of all, in your opinion, um, is this considered plagiarism, or do you think this is more inspiration? Because right now I can say as a musician with having a bunch of guitars behind me, right? A human being hears a lot of music, hears a lot of poetry, sees a lot of art in order to create their own. So first of all, would you say this is plagiarism, or is this more inspiration on the machine side, or both?
Um, See, like there's a very when it comes to ethical uh like there's a very thin line when you
Mhm,
talk about these kind of models, these generative models, or so there's a very thin line. Okay, what I feel is that like let's say OpenAI launched that model. If you remember that Sora model, which was for
yeah.
generating videos and all,
Right.
and they were telling that like we cannot open source it because people are gonna like use it in a very bad way. They can like generate some content out of it and they can use it. So that face mesh thing and all. So the
Yeah,
point is like and there's I said that like there's a very thin line, is that like sometimes what happens, companies also like use this technique like behind the curtain, when they are behind the curtain, when
sure.
they are doing their experimentations, and what they are telling us and what they are not telling us. They are hiding a lot of facts and not giving that freedom, or like making things so there is a drawback for both of the side, when they are like making it everything as a public source, open source, and when they are like making it as a closed source. So when they are making it as a closed source, the obviously like the best one is not getting the credibility or the
Mm,
win.
yeah,
You get my point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so that's where like from the ethical point of view, I feel that like there has to be a maintained balance.
Hmm.
Company but that is not gonna happen in practical life. Companies like are gonna kind of like deceive, or what, this is my understanding,
Right.
this is my feeling. But what I feel is that companies at the end of the day are gonna deceive if they are like too much closed, or they are not like not making anything. So let's talk about this Meta, Facebook. Okay,
Sure.
if you remember, like some few years back, Meta was being known as like the most notorious, or like who does everything behind the curtains.
They had
But
a reputation.
but
Yeah.
they had that reputation that like they don't make anything public, and they do all that thing behind the curtains, but now that reputation has changed,
Yeah.
and the way uh, and the fruitful thing which they were like uh, be able to get out of it, is that like they were able to like launch better, or this Llama 3 model
Yeah.
is the best kind of like it gives like if you will track that empty bench score, the model is like as comparative stronger as this GPT's model. So
Right.
my point is like if companies are like too much kind of in their own circle, and they are not like open sourcing the experiments and the things which they are doing, they are like deceiving the people, and they are like not letting the invention grow the pace it should grow. They are stopping it. And on the other hand, then if they are like they are making everything like too accessible and too open source, and like it's like just like a click of a button thing, then it is like people are also using it in a wrongful way, and like using it in a bad way, and that is also wrong.
You just made a lot of friends in the AI community and the LinkedIn community. So basically, if I may paraphrase, the best way to be ethical about this is to make your models open source. That way, people see what a specific model has been trained on, and they can not only train themselves, they may be their own technique in that said model and have their own identity, right? And now it's not so hush hush, not so close source. So now you know how the sausage is made, basically. And that's the most ethical way to train AI. This is a conversation that's actually been happening a lot on LinkedIn. is open source versus closed source. And the best way to learn, I agree, the best way to learn is open source. That's how I got into this. Some wonderful creators and tutors and mentors out there, showed how to train open source material, and here I am. And here you are. So wonderful, wonderful answer, and I agree with you. If the cat's out of the
Thank you,
bag,
Beck.
if the cat's out of the bag, open source is the most ethical way to do this. I completely agree with you. As we slowly start wrapping up, tell us, how can people get a hold of you, and how can people follow you and find out more about you?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So it's Westcan9654, my username, and mostly like I have my Linktree page also. There have I have listed my contact details and my email
Mhm.
there, and I'm gonna post give you my contact details as well, and you can like post in the description section of
Wonderful,
this.
wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It's fantastic to speak to somebody who is hands-on in the field, on the bleeding edge of technology, knows what's happening. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, please keep in touch.
Thank you, Beck, for inviting me. Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
those amazing words. I really enjoyed the session, and looking forward to it and how it goes. And thank you again. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime.